Welcome to the Play-Based Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Kristen R.B. Peterson, and maybe your new teacher bestie that is here to hype you up, maybe give you a motivating kick in the pants, and teach you all I know about play and childhood. I am here to help you challenge old and outdated practices and inspire you to create a truly developmentally appropriate early childhood environment that fosters creativity, curiosity, and joy in the children that you care for. Let's set the stage for a lifelong love of learning. Let's get going. Welcome to the Play-Based Learning Podcast. I have Mariah Burley with me today. She is the founder and owner of a childcare center. Tell us about you. Tell us about a little bit about your childcare center, and then we'll kind of get into what we're going to chat about today.
Well, hello, I'm Mariah. I started in childcare about 10 years ago. I worked my way from like an assistant in a Head Start program. I worked for the state as an early childhood specialist. I have 3 wild, crazy boys. So I needed childcare, and it does not exist in our area. So what better way than open up a childcare center? So then I took on a new role of being a boss and a director and an owner and money and finances and all that crazy stuff. But my niche is training. I love everything early childhood. So I like knowing that we're following what's best practice. And I feel like if I can oversee that, then I know what's happening in my center is following best practice versus sending my kids somewhere that they may be doing worksheets or something that I disapprove of.
Definitely. Okay, so how old were your kids when you opened your program?
Well, I had a 2-year-old and I had a 5-week-old. Yeah, so I got pregnant during the midst of opening. So I had my baby, and 5 weeks later we opened. And on that 5th day of opening, I was crying. I was like, I can't do this.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
having a mental breakdown because it was wild. We
Yeah.
had picture day. Like, it was just all things that could have happened that first week. It was wild.
Oh wow. Because you were in like survival mom mode, but also survival opening a program mode, and having all of your staff go through that survival stage of teacher development as well.
Mm-hmm. And like, so you have all these new people, and obviously when you first open, like there wasn't this like training period prior to. We had a staff meeting. So like, I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know what they were capable of. So like, I didn't bring my kids to the center for like the first 6 months because I wanted to make sure that like we're ready to roll. Like they knew what best practice was, and you know, that we were being intentional with the children that we were serving, that it wasn't this babysitting type of environment that some people like to refer childcare as.
Definitely. So on that topic, we'll shift over because one of the things that you love to teach about is setting up intentional spaces for young children and using intentional teaching practices and strategies. So can you define what you think, or how do you define intentional teaching or intentional environments?
So for me, intentional teaching is answering that why. So whenever my staff are planning, I want to know, why are we doing this? Are we doing it because someone told us to, because the state set these rules, or because we think it's cute, or because we actually want to know what the kids can do, that we want to see what they're capable of. We want them to grow and see their development. So that intentional teaching is something that there's a purpose behind it. We know the why, and we're waiting to find that outcome versus having a proclaimed outcome and seeing if they can get there. We want to just see where they take it.
That's amazing.
It's intentional.
That's like the perfect definition of intentional, like making sure that everything that we do is for those children in the room and not to serve anybody else and their policies or their procedures or their thoughts, because a lot of times those adult thoughts that travel through our head are there really subconsciously. They've just been built in to us our whole lives as we've gone through the system of childcare and education. So it's really stepping back. And
it's hard too,
questioning.
because we all have policies, you know, in all childcare. And, you know, even outside of childcare, there's rules that run our lives. We have laws and things like that we have to follow. But it doesn't mean we're not following the rules, but we're just being intentional about why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And if someone's not been in that type of environment where that's been supported, and they're for the kids versus for the policy or because of the rule, that's a really hard change. So that was something that we really had to struggle with starting new is, you might have, just because you did it here doesn't mean that's what we're doing here. That,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
we had my first year, we used to say, there used to be a Taco Bell here. Now this is Burger King. You cannot order tacos anymore. So
I
because
love that analogy.
people would just think that, oh, well, you're just another childcare center. You just watch my kids while I go to work. And we'd really have to explain that, yes, this is a childcare center, but we're not babysitting. Just those diaper changes are so intentional. It's not just because we don't want them in a soiled diaper, but they're engaging with us. They're creating that trust and that bond with us. They, those language skills of going, oh, you stink, you're being silly, but they're learning from that. They're creating that, development just from a diaper change. Something so
Yeah.
simple.
Oh, so there's intentionality behind everything
Everything.
that the adults do in the space or plan
Even
for
just
the
coming to
space.
work, honestly, being consistent, coming to your job, those
Yeah,
kids count on you. You're
they
their safe
do.
place.
One of the things that I used to tell myself when I was on my way to work every day was be the one that they would choose today, Kristen, because children can't choose their caregiver. It's chosen
Mm-hmm.
for them. And
Right.
so I kind of took that and I was like, I got to show up as my best self today and be super intentional because they don't get to choose you. So
Yeah.
that is something that I would tell myself every single day when I would walk into the classroom, be the one that they would choose, Kristen. What
Yeah. And,
else?
and especially in our community, we have a really poverty stricken area. So, a lot of kids don't have that solid foundation of someone that says, I believe in you, you're smart, you're kind, you can do this, and they need that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, someone has to be that person for those kids as soon as they walk in the door. And honestly, for those parents, maybe it's a single mom or, someone that's going through something, they need, it's more than just dropping your kids off somewhere. There's intent behind the service I'm providing you, full
Yeah.
circle as a community, even.
Okay. So have you, is there anything that you or your staff, your teachers do to set up a welcoming um, environment for families and children when they come in? Because I know that was a huge thing for me, is ensuring that everybody felt super welcomed and like they had a space there. So what kinds of things, do you have any strategies or tips for people to set up that welcoming environment?
So we kind of joke about it, but the something that is super important is the relationship. You're
Yeah.
not going to create that intentional bond. You're not going to you have to have a relationship in order to build off of that. So, especially for teaching staff and your parents, they have 5 minutes at drop off because they have to get to work in the next 10 minutes. So, there's this hi, goodbye, love you, see you later, diapers in the bag. How can we make that a relationship off of those 30 seconds?
Yeah.
So, there's so much that you have to do outside of just that communication to create that relationship. So, letting them know that, if you're got done work early, you can come in and have a snack with us. Come and eat.
Mm-hmm.
That door is open at all times. If you need to come upstairs in the office and just chat a little bit, that's fine too. You just come in and be here. If you want to come in and show the kids a blanket you crocheted because that's something cool that you're proud of, show them that. Sometimes not only are the kids think that's cool, but the parents need that, because sometimes as adults we don't have those relationships to say, wow, you did a great job. That's great. And sometimes people need that also. So in order to make them great parents, we need to keep them moving too, because we all can use that pat on the back, that encouragement.
Yeah.
A lot of the times too is just, as a childcare center, it's all year round. So there's not this starting point, ending point of the day
Yeah.
in the year, but having those family pictures involved. So we're constantly asking for family photos. We're sharing photos of the kids in the classroom. It is documentation. So it's showing the things that we're doing in the class, but it's intentional that, you can see that we're not just standing around watching kids run around, but we're making purpose of our day while we're here. We're not just saying, oh, I got 5 more hours to get done with work. It's how can I make this day great? What can I do? And a big thing we like to do, because of our area, we don't have buses. So we're not doing field trips and going out. And honestly, it's one less stressor to have to take kids off
Yeah.
of the property.
Well,
So we bring,
yes.
so we bring that to us. So, when you hear field trip, you think of this big lavish thing, it's a big
Yeah.
event,
And
but
it's
for us,
stressful for young children.
right. But for us, we're bringing that excitement, that wow to us. So the wow is, for example, we have our older class are studying trees right now. So our wow was bringing in bamboo stalks. So we brought in
Yeah.
these huge bamboo stalks. They created a fort with the fence, and they have like this little burrow with these bamboo trees.
Oh, wow.
And then so here's this wow factor. We're going out to the playground. Now we're in the forest. And then they were using the speaker and playing like the bear hunt because this, a song that they wanted. But the kids were kind of leading this play. So yesterday it was just one little strand of bamboo or the day before. And it's just slowly grown into this is our bear cave. And this is, it's just
Yeah.
grown into a huge thing. But the intent behind it is that the kids are interested in it. It's purposeful to the kids because where we live, there's, we have trees. The leaves are changing on the trees. The kids are seeing those things. They may be helping their parents raking those leaves. And it's just a topic of conversation that the kids are seeing that I almost got blown away in a windstorm walking to school and the leaves hit me in the face. Or finding a leaf that's big as my face at the park. But that field trip was brought to them to have that wow factor. And
Yeah.
then even on simple things like asking parents to come in their uniform. So maybe the parent works at Family Dollar and they have to wear a certain visor and a name tag.
Mhm.
Ask them to come in for 5 minutes and just explain that. One, we're prouding the parent for their job that maybe they don't
Yeah.
think is that great of a job. But the kids also love that interaction. They just want
Yeah.
someone's, to value them, to say I'm glad you're here today. That they matter, that they're not just a child, that they are just as important as anyone else in that classroom. So community is so important, just that they're allowed to be welcomed in at any time. And there's that ongoing communication. For us, we utilize an app that, creates that ongoing communication for our parents because drop off and pickups are just those quick in and outs
Yeah.
because life is crazy and hectic and we don't have time as much as we'd love to.
What app do you use? People
We,
probably are going to want to know.
we utilize ProCare and it's great. I have my associate director is not tech savvy. She would say she's in the older crowd and but she loves it and she'll find something new and she's just obsessed with it. And
Good.
we have, and especially for parents that have never left their kids before, again, they're you come in for an orientation that's 30 minutes and now
Yeah.
you have to trust in me
I
that
know,
I'm going to take
right?
care of your baby. That is a
Yes.
lot,
It is a
especially
lot.
as a new parent that already has 101 other things they have to worry about taking care of that baby. So, my job when I first meet them is to show them how we're intentional, but our staff and us as a team, it's our job to create that bond and that relationship so they know my child is well taken care of. So, they can see that, yes, he was
Yeah.
crying when we dropped off, but
But
30 seconds
we're
later, I can
good.
send a photo. He's smiling and all is well,
I love that.
and it's great too, because, parents will see oh, their clothes are muddy. Their clothes are ruined. They got paint all over their face or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, all these kids do is play in mud. What, they're not learning. I'm just sending my kids to a mud pile all day. But what our staff can do is send those photos and with those notes say, today we've explored this huge mud puddle on the playground. By
Yeah.
doing that, we explored our sensory skills. We were able to take turns with, sharing these materials. We talked about what happens when the mud puddle is full, the cause and effects, the science. They can expand on just a photo versus,
Yeah.
give the full picture because it's only 50-50 when you get those muddy clothes,
Yes.
but
Oh, I
give the
love
whole
that.
story. And that creates that trust. So the parents then see that it's intentional. We're not just letting kids roll around in mud because we're not watching
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
but there's intent behind
I love
why we let
that.
them play in the mud.
Oh, yes. I love that. That was like a gold quote there.
Yes.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about the families and being intentional with them. And now I want to move into what are some intentional ways that you set up your classrooms or your spaces, like creative, anything you got for people. How can they create an intentional environment then?
So, like we said, to be intentional, it's meeting those kids' needs. So, especially if the kids are new to your class, you're new to the class, you have to learn those kids and understand what their needs are,
Mm-hmm.
what their interests are, and where they're at developmentally. So, I'm a fan for provocations. I love setting a table and seeing what happens with it.
Yeah.
So, a provocation might be setting out some mirrors, setting out some buttons, some glue, some markers, and pipe cleaners. What happens? There's no end goal. In
Right.
my head, I'm thinking they could make some really cool self portraits. Okay. But they also could make a train. They also
Yeah.
may grab a book from our library area and create a house. There is no right or wrong. It's intentional because it's meeting their needs. So provocations are my favorite thing. I feel like that's how you truly see where it goes. You could totally, like, perfect example. I brought in this morning our kids that are doing the tree study. I brought in monkey balls. Again, do you know what a monkey ball is?
No, I do not know what monkey ball is.
Okay, I guess they're called bush apples is what they're called.
Okay, I don't know
I
what
don't know.
that is either.
Google it. Monkey ball. It's this green brain looking ball that comes from a tree.
Okay.
And so I seen them on the side of the road. I stopped, picked them up. And so I brought them in for the kids. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I remember loving them as a kid. And I bring them in. I'm like, guys, got to check this out. I'm like, they're in a box. I'm shaking them. Guess what it is? It's rolling around. And so I show them and I'm like, smell them. What do they smell like? What do they feel like? And, they're passing them all around. And they're like, eh. And, they
Yeah,
carry
yeah.
on. And my heart just crushes. I'm like, monkey balls, they're so cool.
But it's not about you.
Right, it's not about me. It's
Yeah,
not about what I think is cool. It's about what they think is cool. And
exactly.
their teacher had brought in wooden drumsticks because drumsticks are made from wood and the wood is made from trees.
Yeah.
And so, like, they were having a blast banging on everything with drumsticks. So, like,
Aw.
I obviously interrupted their play because I was like, hey, come look what I got. And, it wasn't about me. That was not,
No.
I had intent. I was trying to see, you feel
Yeah.
it out. But, I wasn't forcing them. I wasn't saying, put them away, put away the drumsticks, come
Yeah.
over here, sit crisscross applesauce. You have to see what I'm saying. Now, keep a bubble in your mouth, listen, and wait
Yeah.
your turn. It was, just come on over. There was a kid over at the
Yeah.
water table. He could have cared less about monkey balls. There's a kid over there. He couldn't care less. And there was a few, and they checked them out for a minute because they're sweet kids. And then they're like, all right,
Eh.
moving on.
I wonder if you put them in the water table, if that would change.
Yeah, and you know what? After they get out the excitement with those drumsticks, I'm sure they'll circle back
Yeah.
to them. They're there if they want to, and if they don't, they don't. That's fine. But I
Okay, so
think,
I Googled it because I
uh-huh.
wanted to see what they are. So I know them as hedge balls. And
Hedge
hedge
balls.
balls, people in Minnesota, I don't know if they do this in West Virginia, but you can put them in your house and it like deters spiders.
Yes. So that's what I was telling the kids. I was like, if you put these in your house, they will get rid of spiders and bugs. And they were just like,
Eh,
they didn't care.
that's
Because
okay.
to me, I remember thinking they looked like these cool brains. I remember
Yeah,
cutting them as a kid. Like, I was obsessed with monkey balls as a kid, but
they didn't
not
share
these
that
kids.
excitement today, at
No,
least.
not today, maybe tomorrow, but
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Okay. Um, so cleanup time. I get asked all of the time about how you do cleanup time in a play-based program or an intentional play-based program, which I
right,
think any play-based program is intentional. But
right.
um, what do you, anything you've learned over the years that like helps with managing cleanup time? Because I think that's a huge stressor for a lot of adults.
It absolutely is. And honestly, like, I read that question, I was like, oh, Lordy, like, I don't know. Like, I don't have that magic answer. But, cleanup time is rough. And I think, that intentionality behind it is you have to know your group, what works for them.
Yeah.
So, what works, with my 5 classrooms, what works for one group isn't going to work for the other preschool
Yeah.
classroom. And what works for me isn't going to work for you. So, getting to know your group of kids. So if you have a larger group, it's going to look a little bit different than you have a smaller group. But for us, especially when you have a new group, we're constantly talking about, just the environment as its whole. So a good thing for us, we'll say like, okay, why don't you pick up the blocks, and why don't you get the triangle pieces, or we're going to go on a shape hunt. You pick up all the circle pieces, and you pick up all the red objects, or you pick up all of blah, blah, blah. But when we talk about cleaning up, we're talking to the kids about like, why are we cleaning up? What is our reason? Because there might be a time that they're building with something and they're not yet done with it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to clean it up. So instead of fighting fire with fire, we may say like, okay, so you're not done. What can we do with it? And, we talk about, what else could we do? Could we put it to the side? How will we know someone won't touch it? Those types of things. So it could be confusing, that why we have to clean up then if we don't always have to clean up,
Yeah.
So we talk to the kids about cleaning up in the sense of like, this is our space. And sometimes when stuff gets all over the place and it's a mess, what happens if it's a mess? We might break our things. We may lose our things. You really love these blocks. And if you lost them, I think you'd be really upset. So what could we do? And that's really the way that we go about it. Obviously, no one's perfect. You're 4 and 5-year-olds, and especially if you have like 2-year-olds, like they don't want to clean up. Me and my husband don't always clean up.
Really like a developmentally appropriate expectation for many children. It's overwhelming when it's so many things. So in our program that I founded, how we usually did cleanup time was we would say 5 minutes till cleanup time, let everybody know. And then the staff, the teachers would furiously clean for those 5 minutes and try to get as much that children aren't playing with put away. Yeah. So it's not quite as overwhelming for the children. And then sometimes some classes liked music, some didn't. And then it was really just a lot of teachers handing kids stuff and saying, here, go put this in the block on the block shelf. Here, go put this over in the dress up clothes. Here, go put this, put all these horses in this basket right here. It was very just kind of like direct and like to the point, and let's just get through this because nobody loves it. Also, I as a educator didn't like force, like if somebody ran to hide, generally there's some sort of a need or something that's not kind of met, or they're overwhelmed or something. And so a lot of times I let those kiddos hide and then until I kind of get to know them a little bit better and figure out like what's going on here. Sometimes they come over and they just automatically just start helping out. Sometimes they don't, but that was one thing I just like chose to drop the rope on. Like I just kind of got to go more with that. So
you got to just go with the flow. You can't get upset about it. And like you said, that's a learning process. So we always, especially like with your younger age groups, we'll say, if you invite them to come and help you clean up, like, oh my goodness, look at this mess. What can we do? And they pick up one car and they put it on the shelf. It's not in the bucket. And go, wow, you did it. That's awesome. Way to go. And they're going to love that excitement. They're going to love your interaction. So they're going to put a second one in there. And if they only put 2 of the 10 cars away, we're going to pride them on it. I'm going to pick up the rest. We're going to move on.
Exactly.
We're not going to harp on it and make it a negative situation, because then what happens is then now they're going to fear cleanup time. And like you said, then they're going to go run and hide in the corner or whatever it is. And I think that maybe that comes from home, that, maybe they get yelled at because, oh my gosh, there's toys all over the place. So cleanup time is scary. Maybe we need to change the terminology, that it's not cleanup time, but we're moving on to the next item. So let's see if we can put things back in their home or,
Definitely. So the kiddos that run and hide, I found that sometimes if you give them a grown-up job to do, so like even just having a squirt bottle filled with water for them to wipe off the tables with, or using a stick vac to vacuum up a little area of the rug, or you remember when restaurants used to have those like little sweeper things that would just like pull up all the food and they're not battery operated or anything, but like having
Yeah,
those for children to
that's
just run over the
perfect.
floor, even if there's nothing on the floor. Um, Having little brooms and dustpans for them to use, like having, sometimes they love those grown-up jobs and can feel like they're part of the group and be a little bit less overwhelmed because it's kind of a novelty. So that's something that we used to do too.
We use a vinegar solution to help with cleaning, so the kids can handle it and use it. So
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
in our we have an after school program, and our kids love to help. And I know that sounds crazy, but like we talk to them about like this is your community, like this is our room. We are all gonna help. So like after they eat snack, like they're wiping down the chairs, they're wiping the legs of the tables,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like they're not just cleaning for us because we need help. It's intentional. Like they're
yeah,
learning these life skills about, how to clean up and how to take pride in your materials, that, we're not just like trashing them, we're taking care of our things, and
yeah.
how to use a broom and things like it's intentional.
Yes. Okay. Last thing I want to know. I want to know if what is like one really surprising thing that you learned during the process of opening your own program.
Hmm. um, hmm. One surprising thing, that not everyone has the same work ethic, and that might come
Okay.
from more of the job, like the director position, than the teaching position.
Yeah.
But I mean, not everyone's going to value things the same way or see
No.
things the same way as you do. So, I can't make you understand that, but I can support you and keep encouraging you to understand that. And I think you can use that as, as a boss to a staff, as a staff to a parent, as a staff to a child. I can't make them understand why we have to clean up, but I can support them in talking about like taking care of things,
Yeah.
or I can't make a parent understand why it's important to provide a change of clothes or why it's important to get
Yeah.
muddy, but I can support them and I can be there for them. That things aren't always going to go the way we are. And, my associate director is a little bit different. We're positive and negative. So we
Yeah.
complement each other very well. But, it's okay. Sometimes you just got to let things go, and I'm full force about like karma, like things just happen for a reason. It's going to be okay. We're just going to get through it. And if it's meant to be, it will be, but
Yeah.
we can't get upset over things that we can't change. So long as we know that we did our best, then, that's okay. And
Definitely.
I think that's the goal with childcare, because childcare is tough. It's not easy. And, to make sure that we're doing our best and being intentional, it's hard. We have bad days, we have short staff, we have children from problematic backgrounds or that need more support than we can offer or that we know what
Mhm.
to do with. And that's hard. But it's so reassuring when, like you said, being that person that the child wants to be there. Miss Debbie, I'm so glad you're here today. You could have the world ending and you walk in that door and a child is
Yeah.
yelling for you and you're bombarded by 30 kids.
It's
And
the best.
that's what makes it intentional, that you're doing the right work, that you're supposed to be there.
Oh.
Somewhere along the line, you did what was right. We had a child that randomly started having some behavioral issues, and it was wild. We'll probably talk about this for the rest of our lives. Completely wild, to the point where we were like, what are we doing? But we created a bond with mom. Mom really needed us. And like, typically someone would say, oh, I'm not dealing with that. Out the door you go. But we just couldn't do it. That would have been easier, but we
Yeah.
couldn't do it. And he was a school age kid at the time. So like he'd left for the school year. He came back in the summer. We had all the fears in the world about these behaviors. And no matter how negative those situations became, he still always wanted a hug. He always
Oh.
wanted that engagement. And like still to this day, like we may see him out in public at like the restaurant his mom works at, or at a birthday party. And the first thing he does is runs and comes and hugs us.
Mhm.
So, through all those negatives or fighting through those behaviors, we created that bond with him and we created that relationship with him. So even though it seemed like we weren't doing the best that we could, it was still purposeful. And that is you know, the gold star to full circle there.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. tell people where they can find more of you if they want to connect with you and anything that you've got going on that people can take advantage of.
So I have an Instagram page. It's Mariah Burley _ECS. And I like to share things, all that's intentional. In the classroom, I love open-ended play, providing those provocations in the classroom for kids to explore. I do have a freebie out that is a open-ended exploration guidebook, and it has the perfect Play-Doh recipe that
Ooh,
you absolutely want to have. And there's some other like fun little recipes and open-ended play things, especially open-ended art. It's another one of my niches. But
amazing.
it's a,
We'll link that
yeah,
in the show notes for you.
absolutely. But
Mhm.
yeah, find me on Instagram, say hi.
Amazing.
Go from
Thank
there.
you. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us. And yeah, search out Mariah Burley on Instagram, Mariah Burley _ECS, and connect with her over there and find out more about the amazing intentional work that she is doing. Thanks for being here, Mariah.
Thank you.
If you liked what you heard today, share this podcast with your coworkers, admin, or maybe even your partner. And I love getting 5-star reviews so more people can embrace play. Hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Or connect with me on Instagram or my website, KristenRBPeterson.com. Until next time.